Welcome, everybody. It is Friday, October 6th. I just wanted to say happy birthday to my wife. Her birthday was a couple days ago, but I just want to give her another shout out. She is one of my biggest and avid supporters, so happy birthday, Thaisa. We are here with the CEO of BIOFI, aka Finnovant, and we are here with Chris. Chris, what is your title? Is it CFO?
COO these days.
COO.
It may change. It changes on a daily basis depending on what needs to get done.
You hold multiple hats, Chris, and you deserve a ton of respect for how much you do behind the scenes. I know it's a lot of work. I send you a lot of work through Brian and through NDAs and all that stuff. So I know you are hard at work, and I welcome both of you. I know the community is excited to hear from you about the future of BIOFI and the Phoenix X1. Maybe I can give you guys a little platform to maybe do a little quick intro for the people that might not know you, and then we can kind of get into some questions. So who would like to start? Is it Brian or Chris? Did you want to get started?
Go for it, Chris.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Sensei, thank you for having us on your channel. We really enjoy speaking to your audience. They're always actively engaged with great questions. And it's good to have a community who is interested in what's going on and pays attention and is looking for good projects. So we appreciate being here. We appreciate that you have value. You have value in us to bring us to your community. So thanks. Absolutely. So guys, I'm Chris Benedict. I'm the COO at Finnovant and the BIOFI project. For those who don't know us, just very quickly, I typically spend a few minutes on this, but I'll keep it light. Brian and I and some of our original advisors who are still with us come from an original TradeFi background. We have very deep history and experience in payments, payment security, and innovation, bringing new payments to market. So we took all of that to build SayTech, which is our first product that came to market. We have multiple products now. But SayTech was all about bringing biometric authentication to the market, and that's what we do. We have a great solution today that has evolved over the past 7 years that is voice and face recognition, and it works for any voice and face on the planet. It's a local solution, which means it resides on your device, and it is not held in a cloud or a database anywhere, so it's super secure. So we bring all that to this DeFi space to help, number one, protect people's information, and number two, protect their identities. Those are two of our primary objectives. We are not big tech. We will never sell your data. We'll never take your data and sell it without your permission. If we ever have an opportunity to sell your data, we'll come to you and ask you if you want to participate. And if you want to, you're the one who gets the financial benefit, not us. So I'm going to stop right there, let Brian introduce himself and talk a little bit about the Phoenix X, because I know that's going to be the star of the show this evening. So Brian, it's all yours.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. And Robert, let me just say it's great to see you again after our trip to Hong Kong and China. And you're looking great. Happy birthday to your wife. It's got to be a great time. Jealous that you're in Hawaii. The weather here outside of St. Louis was a bit nippy this morning, so we're heading into that, kind of colder season. And I'm really jealous that you get to enjoy that nice Hawaii weather.
I don't get outside much though. I'm watching Luna 24/7, so I'm kind of locked in the house until the sun goes down. So my tan is kind of fading, but all good. Thank you, Brian.
Excellent. And I just want to say thanks to the entire audience. We have incredible community members. You guys hear us talk about them on the AMAs. There's so many wonderful people, and especially all of you that have lent a hand and are getting involved in the rollout of the Phoenix X in the continent of Africa. This is quite an undertaking, and something that I'm sure we'll talk about here in this conversation. We couldn't be more happier and more proud of each of you that are in the middle of that. There's so much work to do, and this is good old-fashioned just slogging hard work, just getting in there and talking to people and cutting deals and working to bring people into the ecosystem and fanning out across the entire continent of Africa. I told Robert, I said, get your bags ready because we're going to be in the continent of Africa a lot, and there's so much to do there. And we really appreciate everything that all of you are doing, and the ones that watch this later. These get taped and they get played later. We want to thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it.
Awesome. And guys, there is a chat feature on the right side. I know you're going to be doing a lot of talking, but Chris, there is if you top right, there's like a little thing that says show chat. Somebody was saying hi to you in that. So I just wanted to point that out for you really quickly. But let's go ahead and jump into the questions, because I know the community might have some questions, but I have several questions here laid out. Let's start with the gem of all of this. Can you give us an update where the 4G Phoenix stands right now and the certification in South Africa?
I would love to, and this is such a such a fantastic project. You know, we think about what it takes to produce something like this globally, and it's literally people in multiple countries. It would be impossible to dream this up and implement it in one single country in the world. So we have people in the United States, we have people in Southeast Asia, we have people in Europe, we have people in the continent of Africa, all joining in to help in this regard. And it just takes a lot of people to do it. All the engineers and the heavy lifting that goes on is just incredible. So for those of you that watched some of Robert's videos, and Robert put together some incredible videos of the factory environment where the phones are manufactured. We visited 2 factories. We got some incredible video. We also picked up a parcel of phones to take to South Africa. Those phones have gone through the second round of engineering, and they are now in the hands of called CE testing. So CE testing is, your consumer electronics. It takes it through the all of the tests that make sure there's no, spurious electronic waves emitting out of the device or anything like that. And it goes through all the spectrum analysis. Just a lot of minutia tests. It takes several weeks. So we still have a few more weeks left of that testing. And once that's finished, then a big, thick report is written up. That report is eligible to be used anywhere on Earth. If you wanted to launch the phones in South America or Southeast Asia, the Middle East, you could take that report and literally take it anywhere. And then what happens next is what's called type approval testing. For those of you that read the monthly newsletter, you'll see an article on this, a detailed article. It talks about what's involved in that testing. But in essence, this is where they kind of bend the phone, they drop it, they put it in their back pocket, and pretend to sit on it. All these kind of things to make sure that it's sturdy. Then they connect it up to Wi-Fi and different carrier signals to make sure that it works properly across all the range of connectivity that it's been built to do. So, with the CE report in tow, the type approval lab takes 4 to 6 weeks to through that testing effort. So that finishes, and we get the final report from the type approval lab, and then just literally just apply for the stamp of approval from the South African government to essentially acknowledge and certify the device. Once that happens, we can start to deliver it in market. So there's a little bit of a process that takes place to manufacture the phone. And I got to give Robert a lot of credit here. He is so focused, and it's amazing what he's been doing to help us really hone in on the types of decentralized finance apps that will be on the device. So the device itself, like Chris was talking about, has those biometrics embedded in it. This is an incredible feature that ensures the security of everybody who owns the device. It's an incredible level of security. And then we have software of our own, which is embedded in there. In fact, we connected up to a Cosmos blockchain as an example. The beauty of the phone, for those of you who don't know, is blockchain agnostic. So we get this question sometimes, and they say, well, what's the difference between that and a Solana phone? There is huge differences. It's like night and day. It's like an apple and an orange. And the fact is this phone is going to be right around $200. It's priced to hit the broader part of the market across Africa for people that are at the lower end of the spectrum and people at the higher end of the spectrum. And it picks up the entire middle class. So it serves the population in the best way possible. For the people who are at the very lowest end of the spectrum, we will help them through family offices and other endeavors to lower the price. So the goal is to get it in the hands of every person, because once they have it, they'll be able to conduct decentralized finance within their countries and cross-border. And this is a huge opportunity to lift up the continent. There's actually so much going on in the device. We could spend a day talking about it. Let me pause there. I know Chris probably had some amazing things to that. Robert, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, go for it.
Yeah, we're super excited about the phone. I'm finally just catching up on those comments, Sensei. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not really super savvy on Discord. I don't spend a lot of time here. So that's really funny, but true.
all good, man. Some the best comedy is it lives in truth, right? So,
absolutely. So I don't know what I can add to the phone other than we've designed the phone to have an extremely low failure rate, right? We've got a chance to look when we were in Johannesburg at some of the phones that are on the market, and a lot of the feedback that we're getting, the phones at this price point and lower are unreliable. The software is buggy, the devices themselves are cheaply made, and that has a real impact on people, especially when they don't have a lot of money to buy a device in the first place. So we've made this device to be very rugged. It's it's got a bigger battery on it. If you folks have never heard about something called load shedding, it's something that happens in South Africa and other places in Africa where they turn the power off a couple times a day and they rotate it around the city. So that, in Johannesburg specifically, so there are 2-3 times a day that you're on a schedule that you'll have no power. So we wanted to make sure that people could still use the device and connect to networks. So I say that just to let you know that there's a lot of thinking that goes behind this. Well, this is the Phoenix X, right? This is what it looks like. It's hard to see, and we'll get them out in the community. We're going to spend a lot more time on this. It's the descendant of the Phoenix X1, which we've had around for years now. We've learned a lot from this device, even though it really never made it in a big way out to market through us. So this was a high-end device, much more expensive, but we learned a lot about building a device, making it work, making sure it was secure, and making sure that people can operate it in a simple way. We are planning to load a lot of value on top of this, a lot of utility. We're talking to many projects, both DeFi and a couple of TradeFis, to get them on the device because we want out of the box. When it comes from the factory, we want you to be able to open it and get utility out of it right away. You don't have to go and start downloading downloading apps. We have real high quality apps on there for DeFi protocols, maybe lending, you name it, it will be there. And you can start getting that value right away. So there's a lot that's going to be packed into this device.
Beautiful. That's great. So just to kind of go over this one more time for the people who are kind of taking notes on the side, we have another maybe 4 to 6 weeks of CE testing, and then we have to do type approval. Once we get through type approval, how long does type approval take on the low end and on the high end? And the second part of that question is, once we get the type approval testing and we get this big stamp of approval, when will we see the first phones manufactured and actually being sent out to, to people or to retailers so they can start listing them in stores?
Those are fantastic questions. So, first of all, the fastest we can get the phone through type approval is 4 weeks. That's like the minimum, time that you could potentially do that. We are going to have a person assigned to work with the type approval lab. So we will, essentially employ somebody for that period of time to kind of handhold the process. We want to make sure that if there's any questions or feedback, that we're moving rapidly to get that resolved so that we don't get held up in that process.
Okay.
We do have some experience in this whole testing area. As you guys know, we've been working on this type of technology for a while. None of this stuff happens overnight. These are long journeys to get to this point. And so we look at this as a a wonderful challenge. We look at it as a very effective process to certify. And the beauty of South Africa, and some people ask, well, why South Africa? The beauty of South Africa is that it's like Hong Kong is to China. And this was another article we put into the newsletter last month because it's important to understand the geography of the continent of Africa. South Africa plays an incredible role in that once we receive type approval testing country, it automatically applies to 10 other countries. We're able to roll out directly. At the high end, we're looking at probably 8 weeks of test. 4 is the minimum. I'd say 8 is the outside, the high end. We're going to try to get it around that 4-week period, and we're going to work diligently to do it. When it comes to selling the phones, so there are a couple ways to think about this. The can be sold in a retail establishment, just like you buy anything. It's a place where a lot of people buy phones. In fact, there's a couple stores there that are famous for just having tons of very cheap phones. These kind of stores are effective at providing kind of a smorgasbord of opportunity. But the very cheap phones are things that you would have thrown away years ago in the United States. I think people refer to them as like a burner phone, something you could flip open and send a text message, and that's about it. One of those there for like $10. And some people who never want to make a phone call ever, just need to send a text message only, device would appeal to them. But the reality is most people need access to the internet, access to facilities to learn and to grow. And if I had to impart one thing on this audience, it's that Africa reminds me of reading, right? Because I wasn't alive then. It reminds me of reading about the United States like 100, 150 years ago, when we were just, kind of getting things moving here. There was not a lot of regulation, and a lot of people needed to be educated and lifted up. And with a desire, we created, the United States, right? And you see what it is. You see what was the outcome of that. Africa wants to do the same thing. They want to build up that continent, and every person we've talked to is interested in helping in that way to build it up. The Phoenix X provides an incredible opportunity for the average person. Access to information, it keeps their information secure. Imagine for a minute, born in Zambia, move to Nigeria, and then you emigrate to South Africa. That certificate that you picked up as a baby is probably long lost. And by the time you get to South Africa and you have to produce that, have it, you're in limbo for a while, a long while, to get all sorted out. XX, we're going to provide software on that device to store on the chain behind your biometrics that certificate, the deed to your house, the deed to your car, your property, the certificate that you received from your training, your kids, things, the most sensitive personal information we're going to store on the blockchain for you through the Phoenix X. This provides such an incredible opportunity for everybody in the continent of Africa. And, we talk about HVAC-R. You guys watch some of these AMAs that come out. We talk about HVAC-R, the largest HVAC-R educational company in the world. And imagine that training being provided through the Phoenix X platform to people across the continent of Africa with all those great paying jobs, and people can take that certification and start their own business. It's just incredible what can be processed through this device. So we're very excited about that, and the opportunities are just incredible.
And I'll come back to the HVAC EDR thing really quickly. I just want to hammer down the kind of time window where we can get the phones produced. Like, so we get through CE testing, we get through type approval testing. We're talking at if we're lucky, kind of the end of November. If we're not lucky and it kind of goes the full length, we're talking about maybe December, maybe into January. But then once we get the approval, how long is it going to take to produce the phones in China and put them on probably a plane, because we probably don't want to ship them because it's going to take even longer. But let's say we're able to produce them, put them on a plane, fly them to South Africa and other places in Africa. What is that timetable in your head, Brian? Because I know this is a question that a lot of people have, and I know you don't have a future ball, and you don't have a genie to tell you kind of what's going to happen. But in your best estimate, what do you think this is? Q1, Q2? Where do you think this lands in the 2024?
It's a very important question, and think about it as so. There's a legal structure in South Africa that requires a 30-day window when somebody orders a phone online, that you have to deliver the phone within 30 days, or you give the money back. So and you can't manufacture the phones until you have approval. Take a look at it from a perspective of, you get that final approval, you map the calendar there appropriately, and you submit a request to the manufacturer, which you and I vetted, right? The large factory.
We did. They were gigantic.
Right, and we submit a request for phones to be manufactured. That'll happen as quickly as we get the priority through the process, because there's 1 billion phones being produced this year.
Yep.
And the activity is nonstop. And you guys need to understand this. It's nonstop building phones. It's a huge business around, and so fitting inside that. So we would work, Robert, directly with the factories to get order prioritized.
Yes, sir.
And slide it in within a week or two, and then the manufacturer will take another week or two, have to ship it, and it'll get shipped there, and then through customs and distributed out. So it'll be a couple weeks for all of that, and then you're looking at dropping phones in the hands of people across South Africa.
So best estimates, and I know we can't hold you to what's called, but we're talking Q1 of 2024 if everything kind of goes to plan and we don't run into any kind of hiccups. Is that kind of accurate?
Absolutely. If it was at all possible to have phones in the hands of people by the year, we'll definitely do it. Okay. The things we're doing too, and I can't wait to show this off to everybody, is we have a pre-order site set up. So unfortunately we can't take money is at the moment, but we will be able to take the interest, that is, information about the person, which they're from, and the details for contacting them as soon as we're ready to process their order. And that will be stored securely in our web infrastructure, but should be launching here in the next couple of days, like 24, 48 hours.
That's amazing to hear, Brian. I did watch the James Pelton AMA that you did, I think, last week. You were talking to James, and I think you had the lady, man, I can't remember her name. She's got such an interesting name, but she's a pretty big influencer in Africa. Is it Leeway, or is that her name?
Close. It's Yaliway.
Yeah. I was gonna get that wrong, no matter what I did, no matter how I tried. But you guys are currently building. Although I had two questions in my head there. Let's go with this one. You guys are currently building a coalition of influencers and other type of people that have bigger communities in the continent of Africa, all over the continent of Africa. Can you tell us a little bit about how that's going? And how do you see that helping not just getting the information out about the Phoenix X1, but also expanding into other countries inside of Africa, other than like South Africa? And I know there's several other ones that maybe she's into, but can you tell us about this coalition that you're building of influencers out in Africa that will help expand the reach of the phone and the knowledge of the phone?
I'll jump in on that first. Yeah, let me jump in, Brian, and then you can add any comments you like.
Luna.
We're focused on people who have reach today. When we talk about someone like Yaliwe that Robert was talking about, she's educated over 300,000 people already on blockchain. She's got a book for sale that she has put out. It's out on Amazon, I believe. I've got it here somewhere. I just can't find it at the moment. But it's to teach people who know nothing about blockchain what the basics are. It's intended for children, but it's a good primer for pretty much anybody who wants to learn early on what it is and what are the basics. So working with those influencers is what gets us scale quickly. We are working with people who are in that blockchain space. I'm sorry, I mentioned Leeway. She's done 300,000 and she wants to get to 1 million over the next couple of months. All right, that's her objective. So she's got a very long reach already. People within there are coming to her training who don't even have phones today. So she is one of the most excited people about the Phoenix X because she sees that it can meet that niche need, right? We're not competing, and I see a couple questions in here that we'll get to. We're not competing against the big guys. We're not trying to take Samsung share or HTC share because those guys are big. What we're trying to do is appeal to a segment of the market that needs it, right? And that is looking for this today, looking for a solution that doesn't exist, right? At the right price point with the right technology and security built into it. So that influencer space, we've already reached out to, it's upwards of 700 influencers and people in the space who have major audiences, and we're getting good traction with a good percentage of them. That's where we see the opportunity. And Brian, you can agree with me on this one or disagree. I think I know your answer. But when we get onto the continent of Africa, whether it is South Africa, there's a lot of interest in Nigeria, believe it or not. Nigeria has the largest interest in crypto of any of the African countries. Kenya is probably right up there too, as that's one of those are the top three. The people who have seen this device and understand, we have a little bit of time to talk to them about the value proposition and what we're trying to do, are overwhelmingly excited and supportive of the initiative. It's such a breath of fresh air from working with people in the West, where people are just very reserved. They don't want to make decisions. They want to wait. They want to stretch things out. These people want to start delivering this device tomorrow. We've talked to people who have given us estimates. I can sell 500,000 of these in the next 6 months. I can sell, 100,000 of these in no time flat. There's a lot of that reaction based on the device itself and what it's going to bring. So the influencer track is a very important one because they understand, as it has been told to us, the pocket of the people in Africa. What does it mean? What's important to them with a device, and what do they use it for? They use it for food. They use it for airtime. And believe it or not, something that's very big in Africa is to make sure that you have basically a death benefit in place. And people pay into these programs that when they die, they have coverage and they're going to be taken care of. Their body will be, buried and put to rest properly. It's a very big cultural need down there. Those are three top things at the lower end of the market, of the lower end of the earning spectrum. So the Phoenix X, as it's designed, talks directly to that segment, and those influencers talk directly to that segment. And I'll pass it off to Brian to add to it.
Thanks, Chris.
Great summary comments. And I would just say, I was playing around with so Robert, I'm getting used to Discord here. I was just playing around with that little comments. There's a little comments box on the right top here.
Yep.
And if you click it, it drops down. So JP's in here.
Yeah.
Which one is JP, by the way? Which one is he on the screen?
JP BFF Crypto. I don't think he's sharing his camera though. But you definitely know him, and we've been in meetings with him.
Hey JP. So I have to tell you that it's a pleasure working with all the teams in Africa, and I would just say, Robert, this good old fashioned hard work. Going out and talking to people.
Yeah.
Yali is a great example of some. Once she got a hold of this phone, it's like us. When we got a hold of it, we started to put it together, and it's like it just every time we added something else to it or did something else with it, you just fall in love with it, and it's such a passion to create something so innovative. So it's wonderful, Yaliwe and others, Alice. We have many, Francesca, which could be on this for all I know. They're listening here, watching us. But just say thanks to all of them, because it takes thousands of them, Robert, with their millions of people that they interact with, to create a market for this device, and that's exactly what we're doing.
No, I love that. And, Alpha Bravo had some questions here that kind of go into my question. So I will try to entangle his question with my question and try to get his stuff answered real quickly here. So I think everybody wants to know how the sales or the interaction of people with the Phoenix phone is going to help the BIOFI token. Like, what is the connection there, and how is the sales of the phone going to correlate with a higher price token value for the BIOFI ecosystem token, and how is the token going to be used in the phone itself? Can you explain those two questions? And I think that'll answer most of what he's asking there, and minus one or two things.
Think of well, you guys understand the tokenomics. We've talked about that in several AMAs, but it's designed so that as providers come into the ecosystem, they use we call them seed products, right? This is your Cryptic, it's your Unisafe box, it's the Phoenix X, the biometrics, the metaverse, that you see HVAC-R EDU out there in a very big way, because of what they stand for, what they're doing globally. And all that's happening in the metaverse, there's a whole bunch of stuff happening in there. So you see all of these products and how they're being used right now. You see them used in different countries and with different communities, and you can kind of, track all that. One thing that we have coming up, just as a side note, because I get to do marketing stuff too, right? Just as a side note, we're going to do a big launch in just a few weeks with 4 NFT collections. So if our buddies are here from Cyber Elite and Disc, I just want to say hi to you guys. We're going to launch, and we also have Small Frogs, Michael, Small Frogs. So we have 4 NFT collections that are launching with a website, and this will be tapped into a third-party product run in Singapore, which allows NFTs to compete against each other. So it's kind of a fun avenue, purchase an NFT and then have something fun to do with it with your friends. So more about that, but these are all things that you can access on the phone. You can all of these things directly through the device that you do, with the phone is based on utility. So think about the BIOFI token. And you use one of these products on the X, somebody is buying BIOFI someplace. So provider who's on the phone, we're doing a revenue share for a product that's running on the phone, or because of something that is being paid for, we take a portion of that money and we buy back the token on the market. You're getting revenue streams coming in from multiple locations, dozens of locations. And a portion of that is used to buy back the token. That is used to increase liquidity. This, we're able to really manage the ecosystem in a way that most projects could only dream about. But it's all those revenue streams together that make it so powerful.
All right, I got something for you here. Are you going to use a portion of the profits of the actual phone sales itself to buy back any of the token off the open market on exchanges or whatever. And the part two to that question is, once you buy back the token, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to burn that token to create a more scarcity, or are you going to use that token for future ventures to, pay for other services? What are your plans to do when you buy back tokens?
Token buybacks is a critical part of the token. So you guys know that in order for an ecosystem to thrive, you've got other participants in the ecosystem. It just can't be you.
Yeah.
And really, really large for it to grow to, a $50 billion, $100 billion entity. It lots of players in it, and they have to be using the technology. They have to be interacting with each other, and that's exactly what the ecosystem is all about. So when things come back in, they're used to cut more deals with more companies and bring the fold. Those are then used to pay back people who've already invested. This is spiraling up, and you see, it looks like you guys know what a hockey stick looks like, right? Looks like a hockey stick, and so you see this hockey stick activity, and token is enjoying that trajectory going up. Tokens that are brought back in are used to help accelerate that even faster. And of it, you don't want it so expensive that it's prohibitive for any single person to use it easily. You go in value across the entire amount. That's why it's the 10 years emissions. Full 10 years emissions before all of those tokens make it to the market. Designed to go to different places. So some go back to the some go back to the individual people who have bought the token early on. The team, 1% of those, by the way, went to Constellation Network. If you look at the tokenomics, we went through the program, and as part of that contract, weigh 1% of the tokens. So if anybody from the DAG communities here, we're very happy to work with the DAG community on the Metagraph. You guys know we're working with them on that. And through that whole process, some of the software will make it on the phone, of course. It's due time. And we know that the activities that we're doing together will be to a lot of people. So each and every one of these, Robert, is very critical. In that case, we gave up 1% of the supply to Constellation.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that. So MMT has a question here in the chat. He says there's been there's been many blockchain/crypto phones launched in the past year that have failed. He gives an example of the Siren Phone Labs or the HTC, etc. He says, what lessons, if any, can the team take from these failures and increase the chances of success of the Phoenix X phone?
First, I know Chris is going to want to, nail this one too. The thing, and JP, by the way, thanks for challenging on the with the Solana phone, because it's a really good question. And the reason why those other phones have not done well, it's because they're priced way too expensive. Somebody goes in and they take a look at it and they say, well, am I going to pay $1,000 for a Solana phone? Really? $1,000? Oh, look at the price of the Solana phone now. It's $599. Robert, I wouldn't take anything away from them. What they did is not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do this. So I wouldn't take anything away from them for what they did. But it tells you a lot of the story. Why the Phoenix X is $200 is because able to very smartly study the supply chain. Tool the device, economies and the countries and territories where it's being targeted. Fill it full of super expensive software from multiple entities. And Robert, you know some of these are incredible. The company you're working with, these are like high value, top notch, some of the best companies on earth in space and elsewhere, and they're on the phone, guys. They're going to be on the phone. So, amazing array of technology. and as secure as you find anything, like super secure. And when you put all that together, there's nothing like this on the market anywhere. So we learned by studying those other phones how they were mispriced. They're focused on singular blockchains in many cases.
Yep.
And many of them are not secure. And then look at the Phoenix X, it resolves all of those issues.
All right, Chris,
Yeah,
I know you're itching to get in here. Go for it.
I'll add a little bit to that. Being blockchain agnostic, I think, is going to be a huge piece of what we're doing going forward. We'll have, connections to Constellation. We'll have connections to Avalanche. We can connect to Solana. Who knows? We can make connections to different blockchains, and we're open to all of them. So that gives you more utility, gives you more things you can do with the device itself. The other thing, I'll go back to what Brian said, is the price point. On the continent of Africa, $1,000 phone is not for the mass market.
Yep.
It's just not. 80% of the people make very little money over there and are struggling to survive on a day-to-day basis. 20% of the people in South Africa live like a Western country. They've got cars and homes and things like that. So we are not appealing to the mass market. We're not appealing to the high-end market,
Yeah.
excuse me. The original Phoenix X1 that I talked about before, that would easily come to the market with the features at $1,200 to $1,500, easily. It's got 2 operating systems. It's got an extra security chip, 2 SIM slots. You can operate 2 different phone numbers, 2 different VPNs if you want. There's a lot of technology packed in that. And that's why that device was re-engineered into the Phoenix X, because it's market specific and it's needs specific. So that's really the top things. And we're going to put as much on there as we can. Where Solana, and again, I won't take anything away from them either, but they focused on one chain. We're open to as many that want to participate on that particular device, because at the end of the day, it gives the person who owns it the decision-making capability to go where they're going to maximize their revenue or their opportunity to earn back on the device. Now, before I let the comment go, I just want to go back to something that Alpha Bravo we didn't get to the end of Alpha Bravo's questions. He's asking things like, will the BIOFI token be used as gas? How much will be preloaded on the phone? And what happens if the person runs out of it? Those are great questions. The phone itself, while it will be able to hold multiple tokens and currencies, we are not using it that way. So if someone comes in, if a provider comes into the BIOFI ecosystem, when they put SATEC or the biometric solution on their solution, whether it's an app or something else, they will work with us to pay us for that technology, whatever that looks like. The end user will not pay for that technology. So there's no way for that person who's making a few dollars a month in Africa, there's no way their phone is going to be turned off by us because they don't have enough BIOFI. That's not the model. That's an interesting way to look at it, but that's not the way we're going to market with this particular one. Once they own it, they own it. Depending on where they get it from. Do they get it from us? If they get it from any of the mobile network operators, there may be some financing on a monthly basis, but that's up to the mobile network operators, not us. But they will own the device, and keep in mind that we are also planning to help pay them back on a month-to-month basis. They will earn something back out of the box without doing anything other than buying the device itself.
Awesome. We're having this long conversation about price point, right? And we are talking later on. I did listen to that AMA with James Pelton. It was a great AMA that you guys did. You guys mentioned that you guys are thinking of putting this 5G version phone in either Q1 or Q2 of 2024. So where do you see the price point on that phone, and what is the actual market going to be when you guys launch that phone? Is it going to be like Europe and Canada, or are you going to try to deal with the United States? I know you guys have a working relationship with Verizon. Maybe you can fill us in on how do you see this unfolding, and maybe you can give us a clear kind of picture of the price point and the market for the 5G version of this phone and the timeline.
It's for this audience and for people who are really watching this closely, that's your high-end device.
Yeah.
That's your 5G device. So that's going to have the latest chipset in it. It'll be loaded up with additional memory and all kinds of stuff. So it's basically going to be festooned with the most everything. And so the is going to reflect that. Now, what charge for it in the U.S. market? It's importing a cell phone in the U.S. does not incur any import tax. Even with the tariffs that Trump, you guys remember when Trump put the tariffs on when he was president?
Yeah.
That did to cell phones. Many people don't know this. So import a cell phone into the U.S. with zero fee. And it's helpful then to kind of control that cost. So where does the cost come in? The cost in all the materials that you put around it. The metal and special glass, the higher end chipsets, things that are out of the box are very expensive. For a very luxurious phone, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's everything on it. So the key then, Robert, is to get that supply chain worked out where you're not paying for all that. And that's let's try to figure that out so that phone is not $1,000.
Yeah.
That we can price in, maybe the $700 range. But it's definitely not going to be a $200 phone. The 5G chip alone would blow your mind away how much that costs in any kind of a quantity, because away with that today at this time. Now, as you guys know, the phones are going to 6G in the distant future. So like a Verizon will tell you that they will not take a 4G phone in the U.S. longer. It's got to be 5G or greater.
What is the timetable that you foresee? Is it's realistically, because you guys are doing everything you can to get this 4G phone launched. I know you guys are working on the 5G in the background. Is this like maybe Q2 of 2024, Q3? I mean, where do you actually see kind of phones hitting stores in the US or Canada or in fact Europe for the 5G version?
Ready, definitely in the first quarter. As you know, we have a contract with Verizon, and it allows us to certify with them with the device. So this is a long process you have to go through with Verizon. AT&T does not require this. So once you receive type approval testing in the U.S. market, AT&T will take your phone. Verizon, on the other hand, puts you through yet another testing cycle. So in fact, if you look at some of the Chinese phones that are sold in the U.S., they don't even run on Verizon. Check them out if you haven't noticed this. They don't even run on Verizon because they don't want to deal with that extra certification. But we've gone through the hard work of getting that contract in place, and we will stick to that in our rollout in the U.S. It may be, Robert, that AT&T goes first, and then once Verizon finishes their testing, it does a fast follow. So sometime after the first quarter, as soon as that testing is completed and certified, they can go to market.
I love that, man. Thank you. I know you didn't come in here for softball questions, and so I'm never going to ask you softball questions. I like to get directly to the facts, and I appreciate you getting into that. What do you guys see beyond the 4G and 5G phone? Like, is there anything else that we can talk about or let people know that you guys are working on in the background beyond these phones? Or, I mean, of course, there's the 6G chip, and that's kind of down the line here, but is there anything else that you guys are working on in the background that you feel is important to let people know about, or is it too soon? I don't know how you want to take that question, but I'd love to know if, or the audience would probably like to know as well.
I would like to say a couple things here. So we love working with the community. And on this front, one of the guys, I'm not sure here in the audience today, probably listening to this at some point tonight or over the weekend, is Miguel Thorpe, right? Was one of the guys that came to, in fact, Robert, this is when you were out in Los Angeles.
Okay.
The Constellations High Def event. And and a corresponding event at the Chandler Hill Winery just outside of St. Louis. Up from Arkansas at the night before. It was a 6-hour plus drive. Spends the night in the parking lot, brought a couple buddies. When Rick Toman came that morning to open up the winery for the event, these guys popped out of their car and went inside, and then they spent the whole day with us. And we tell this story because Miguel's also an innovator. We've had lots of conversations with him on the side, just meeting and talking about products and the future and innovation and what things can do and how we can look at the future. And we do this with a lot of people because what about Robert is ideas, and taking these thoughts, these ideas, and transforming them into these incredible innovations. And what you guys see now with the Phoenix X, and then the 5G version of that, and what you're seeing in the BIOFI ecosystem, and with treating these as an edge device that can do all this node mining and transaction processing, and at the same open up, metaverse education to the masses, you start to see that we're really at the very start, the very beginning of the innovation. And they're due here from a software perspective for years to come, decades to come. And the next generation behind us will pick this up and run with it. And we look forward to that. What you have in BIOFI is an incredible array of innovation that's not going to stop with the 10 years emissions. It'll keep going. And talking to people and building out and working together, coming up with these ideas is a fantastic way to do it.
Love that. Chris, did you have anything you wanted to add? I see you kind of itching in your chair over there. What do you got?
Yeah, you see, I can't sit still, right? When I've got something to say, I move around too much. I think the education piece is a really interesting one to focus on. When we bring that together with the metaverse, God, the device itself, and this is the first one, right? Each device will have the opportunity to bring education out to the marketplace, whether it's on DeFi, whether it's on TradeFi, whether it's on HVAC or anything else. We are working with people in Africa that teach students how to do development, right? They teach them Solidity. They teach them how to write contracts and how to build apps. Think about what we can do to deliver knowledge through that channel. And to people who don't know anything about these things. First of all, the people who are looking for it can find it. The people who don't know anything can learn a lot. And they don't have that ability today. Sensei, I was looking at some of the comments you and Double Dam were going back over here, back and forth, talking about the number of people in Africa who are unemployed or who have phones. Keep in mind, they don't have access to the banking system like we do. I would imagine everyone on this call has at least one bank account, and probably people have multiple accounts and brokerage accounts, and you name it. You have access to funds and money in a lot of different places. The people in Africa don't have that. Their lifeline is a device, and the mobile money platforms are what serve these people. A couple dollars a month here and there will keep a family going in food and airtime and so forth. So it really makes a big difference that you're not taking all the money to pay for a device. You're giving them the opportunity to get a device, a very competitive device at a really great price that's going to deliver all these things that they may not have access to today. So, one of the things we're throwing around also, and it's just conceptually, we're trying to figure out how do we make the value proposition even better for people at the low end of the market. And we've come up with a lot of ideas, whether it's, family offices, big organizations that have money and donations that they want to give to certain programs in Africa. We're looking at them. We're looking at even just opening it up and say, hey, we are building a way for people to earn some money back. Do we open up that portfolio to people to put money in? Do they want to invest in that for a small rate of return back, knowing that part of their return is going to help fund for people who otherwise couldn't afford to feed their families or get medical attention or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of things we can do as we go forward. To Brian's point, I think we are just scratching the surface technologically, as well as, money, and maybe even, from a supporting other people around the world. There's a lot of things we can do, and it's so early days right now that those opportunities will start to become more clear as we go forward.
And you know what's funny? Brian's phone blows up in the middle of the night when he's sleeping because at like 10 o'clock at night, I'll have a random idea that I think is brilliant, and I'll just send Brian text messages, and he wakes up and he gets back to me. So I'm always thinking of how to bring new light and new ideas to the Phoenix X, the BIOFI ecosystem, and it's been a lot of fun to kind of work in the background with Brian, and we talk often about all of these different things. I wanted to ask, Green Llama said, will there be a whitelist to kind of sign up for the phone, or are there going to be direct sales on the website? Can you just go over that one more time for maybe the people that missed, because I know you talked about it very briefly at the start of this chat, but let's go over that just one more time, how you guys are going to offer the services by yourself, and then are you guys going to have it on the Finnovant or BIOFI website directly, or how's that's going to work?
Question. So we have, I saw, I did a version yesterday. I saw it the day before, but we're really probably one day away from, going through our test cycle on this website, and the website will allow anybody in the continent of Africa to sign up for the phone, and in fact, anywhere in the world. It'll be available to anybody. But let's face it, the phone is being targeted for Africa. You can buy it in the US, you can buy it in Europe, anywhere in the world, but the target market is the continent of Africa. So we'll have to track back as to person the request came through. So if it was Yaliwe or Alice or Francesca or Ronnie, whichever person we're working with in Africa would have a special URL. And that URL, like, those little referral links you see on the URL, it'll trace back and track back to them. Country, and by person, which from, and then we'll be able to target those markets. So the first one being South Africa, and then with a pivot to the other 10 that we've been talking about. And we can post that in Robert. So the idea being that the website initially is not going to take, because by law we can't. But towards the end of testing, and we know the manufacturing date, then we can start taking that payment, and that'll be a second trip back to the person who signed up. Our goal is to get millions of people to sign up, and we'll be working diligently to do that over the next couple of months.
I love that, Brian. Thank you for hammering that home. MMT was saying, "Oh wow, now super interesting donations, EDU unbanked." He says, "So the device becomes a distribution platform for services." Is his thought process correct on that? Is that kind of how you see this?
Absolutely. That's exactly what we're trying to do. Not all the value needs to come from Finnovant or BIOFI. BIOFI, the ecosystem is what's important. And whoever comes in to participate in that ecosystem as a user or a provider, that's why we did this in the first place. We knew that we would bring some seed products to the market to kick things off. But the real strength in the ecosystem is it growing beyond us and it becoming self-sustaining. So that's exactly it. The device itself becomes not just a platform to spend money or look for entertainment, but you can buy things, you can entertain yourself, you can learn, and you can get the services that matter to you. So that's exactly what we're doing, MMT. That's exactly it.
Love that. Brian, did you want to add anything? I mean, that was a great explanation, but I don't know if you had anything to say.
I'm not sure who all the people are there, but that idea is with great questions. I was reading through the chat log there, and those thoughtful questions.
MMT said, now that's a 10x answer. Maybe I should launch an academy on there. Hey, I mean, there's going to be a lot of different services and a lot of different people adding value in this ecosystem. And hey, I know you have the intelligence and know how to launch that. Maybe that's another conversation to have in the background. We do have Dagonaut in here. Dagonaut is Double Dam. I did not know that. I did want to ask really quickly. I personally know some of the companies that you're talking to and working with. Obviously, I can't say anything because I'm under NDA. But can you share any partnerships that maybe are not yet public knowledge? I mean, I wouldn't be doing my job as a interviewer if I didn't ask for some alpha that is not really out there in the public domain yet.
Amazing question. I'll tell you what, we have multiple contracts right now that are in the process of being negotiated. I would tell you that there's going to be incredible software on there from companies that you guys know very well, that are out in the space and they're doing wonderful things. And you're going to go, wow, this is just incredible. So yeah, there's a few, I'll have to wait to announce those.
Yeah.
It won't be long before we get to announce these.
No worries, Brian. I had to ask because you never know. Sometimes people slip up and they want to tell us all the exciting stuff. But Chris is going antsy. So what do you have to say, Chris? Maybe I can mute Brian.
No, this is one. This is one where I won't jump off the edge of my seat. I'm very conservative when it comes to these things.
Right.
We have because I want to be cautious in my comments, right? I don't want to do anything that could be misinterpreted. But we do have some really exciting things coming, and I won't say any more than that. You guys can judge for yourselves when they're announced, but I think you guys will be super happy when we're able to announce some of these partnerships and these deals.
I love that. All right. Another question. I don't want to call it a pain point, but a question is liquidity for the BIOFI token. We talked about how the BIOFI token will be bought back off the open market by different services that you guys offer and providers and things like that. How are you guys going to help provide liquidity for the token, as well as, once you have a certain amount of liquidity, then you can really kind of go after some bigger exchange listings. So how do we plan to work on providing liquidity for the token, and what is the plan in the background for that?
We love liquidity. We love that question. The fact is that we want to have millions of dollars of liquidity. We want to have multiple exchanges behind this. As you guys know, right now we've got the MEXC, Lot Token, and Trader Joe. BIOFI is an Avalanche token, and that's where NFTs are minted, and this entire set of collections that are coming out are also on the Avalanche chain. The Metaverse Connect, some of these innovations, which we were the first to do, are all based on Avalanche. So the idea is that we would put millions of dollars into that, Robert, so that when you get a token, you sell a token, the price is just barely moving. Mm-hmm. It's hard to move the price. You put millions of dollars in. And, we're in a bear market. We're still bouncing along the bottom.
Yep.
Most of the entire market. We don't see this lasting forever. And we say this in these AMAs. When you hit a market like this, which has lasted longer than many people would want, it doesn't go on for. These things always come out and they correct themselves, and we get back to a normal operating model. The beauty is with the Phoenix X, there's going to be lots of revenue streams. So liquidity will be pumped just like it's in the ecosystem.
I love it, Brian. Thank you for answering that, because I know that's probably a lasting question. And guys, I know we're getting towards the end of this AMA. We've been going for an hour, so if anybody has any lasting questions that's something that we have not answered, that you're dying to know, I will ask it if you let me know in the next couple of minutes here in the chat. Here's an easy question. So I know when we are talking about Africa, we're not just kind of talking about Africa. We're also talking about maybe the Middle East. We're also talking about Southeast Asia. Once the phone gets certified in South Africa, you can actually sell it in some of these other places. So let's go beyond Africa right now. And where else are you thinking this maybe 4G version is going to be beneficial? In what countries are you guys kind of targeting after Africa, or maybe at the same time you're targeting Africa? Can you give us a little bit of information on that?
And so we've got, and Chris rattled up some of these earlier, like Nigeria. You don't think of Nigeria as being so big, but there's over 220 million people in Nigeria, and they around 45 million people that are already interfacing with crypto. It's an incredible country in the midst of, just like of Africa, a march to get to first world status. So we see Nigeria as a big country. We see Kenya. We see Egypt. Egypt really surprised us. We see Tanzania. We see Zambia. The Democratic Republic of Congo, right? We see, of course, South Africa, and a host of others all across the continent that we would go to pretty quickly after we wrap up type approval testing in South Africa. Nigeria being the one we go to first and foremost immediately after we launch in South Africa.
Is there any countries outside of Africa? I don't have a geological map in front of me, and maybe a couple of the countries you mentioned maybe connected to the Middle East. I don't think so. But are you guys looking towards India? Are you looking towards the Middle East? And if so, can you tell us a little bit about that? And I have one more question from the audience after that.
Is a target in our thinking. Southeast Asia represents a follow point because you have places like the Philippines and Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand and Vietnam. All of these countries stand to gain a lot from the Phoenix X. They are, in many cases, like Vietnam is a big crypto country, and these kind of devices for the very same reasons. The beauty about the biometrics, Robert, is it works with every language, every single wonderfully with the biometrics. So we can roll out in these countries and continue this incredible reach. And the codes that are programmed into the phone work in all of the South Asian countries. So all of the carrier codes are in there. And just a fact, they're also in there for Europe. The big market for this at the moment. The codes are in there for Europe.
Great. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. One last question from the audience is MMT asked, what's the one thing BioFi related that keeps Chris Benedict and Brian Ma awake at night? I know other than the late night meetings across the world, what else keeps you guys kind of awake at night?
That's a good question, and there's probably a lot of things. I'll go first if you don't mind, Brian. The first thing that keeps me up is just the markets themselves, and what I mean by that is this: people are hesitant, and I think in a different market, the BioFi ecosystem and the people who would have been exposed to BioFi and learn more about it and just get into it, right? I think there'd just be a lot more of that. It's an uncomfortable market for a lot of people out there. There's a lot of uncertainty. We're coming up on an election year here in the U.S., so I think people are just uncertain, and everybody's waiting for the sign that the bull is back, right? So what keeps me up is, when is that going to happen? Because that helps everything. That floats all boats. That helps us. That allows us to put more focus into different programs, right? And the token and so forth. And we don't do what we do for the token. We know that will happen. We're focused on driving business, driving revenue, and we know that will happen. So that's not primary for me, but the markets is number one. Number two for me is something that you were talking about earlier, Robert, when you were asking, what's next? We like to continue to think about what we're going to do down the road. And there's always that tension between, what's next? What should we be developing, right? Versus what should we be solidifying right now? I mean, if you look at the big companies, you look at Microsoft or you look at Apple, how many versions of the iPhone do they have on the drawing board right now? They just released 15, but they probably have 21, 22 already on the drawing board. So they're looking that far ahead. What should we be doing there so that we don't miss an opportunity? How do we make sure that the Phoenix X evolves into what it should be over the next year so that we continue to capitalize on things? Things like that are things, Brian and I talk about the future all the time, but how do we make sure we're optimized to take advantage of things like that. And, it's the uncertainty of knowing which direction to point your shift in a to point your ship in a shifting wind environment is just the uncertainty of running a business. So those are the kind of things, with multiple others, but those are the things probably that really keep me up. How can we help? How can the market help us, help our community? And where should our focus be for the longer term? What are the things we need to, out of a basket of great opportunities, what are the things we need to focus on?
You got some tongue twisters there, huh, Chris? It happens to me all the time, man. You're all good, brother. Thank you for that answer and that clarification. Brian,
Sure.
what keeps you up at night, my friend? What haunts your dreams there? I'm just kidding, but does anything keep you up at night?
Text messages. It says text from Robert. Look at that.
Yeah, well, I'm always thinking of new stuff to send you, man. Actually, I think that's a pretty good idea to reach out to that one, but they're big in Africa.
And this is, such an incredible, because Robert, you are incredible in thinking things that we should be looking at and we should be doing. People, and for those of you on this call, I encourage you and challenge you to be to bug Robert, to bug me, to bug Chris, to come up with ideas and challenge us and say, hey, have you guys thought about this? What about this? Could you consider this? I think Dagonaut's in this channel. He's really good at this. Incredible, just thinking and finding things and saying, hey, what about this idea? Maybe we should talk about this. And then we kind of, focus in on it. As I understand, like what Elon Musk goes through to figure out innovation. He likes to, have these quick, heavy hitting meetings, like 5 minutes at a pop, and you have these power meetings where you just rip apart a subject. But he never misses an opportunity to talk about innovation. And we would love to do that, Robert, here with you and Kryptonaires and everything you're doing. And I have to tell you, I totally appreciate every text message that you send, every single one. And I love working and digging through with you and trying to figure things out, because the stuff that we do is making a difference. It's making a huge difference around this world. And we would not want to be in a different place. So that's what keeps me motivated and keeps me moving every night, is all of that.
I love that, Brian. And I don't think people realize how many times I text you about random things, but it's always to push the ball forward. It's always to make this ecosystem bigger and better. Some ideas go nowhere, but some ideas actually have traction. And that at the end of the day, I care about the community. I care about the BIOFI ecosystem. I care about you. I care about Chris, and I want to see you guys succeed, because if you guys succeed, we kind of all succeed, because we're in this ship, as Chris said, together, and we want to see all boats float here. So why don't we do this? Since there's not any, let me see. I have 3 chats here. Let's see if there's any more questions here. FUD haunts me in my dreams at night. I hear you, Dagonaut. MMT says, I really think there should be made of an BIOFI, an ecosystem platform, not a simple token. I appreciate it's on the website, but the broader narrative should also do this. So much opportunity. He says, excellent answers, Chris and Brian. He said, thank you. I really appreciate your guys' time. I wanted to give you the floor for a final, anything that you would like to say in closing. Maybe we can start with Chris and we'll go to Brian to finish us off. But the floor is yours, gentlemen, and I just really appreciate your time, you guys coming in and answering these questions. I know I maybe asked a little bit too direct, but I mean, that's what we're here to do. We're here to get some answers. And thank you for going along with everything and trying to shine the light on what's going on with the ecosystem. So, Chris, I'll turn it over to you, my friend.
Thanks, Robert. So first thing, thank you for having us, and thank you for your questions. We don't expect softballs out of you. It'd be boring for your audience if you gave us softball questions, so we don't want that. I want to thank the audience. A lot of you have been here the whole time. Thank you so much for giving us your time. We know it's valuable, and you can spend it any way you like. So for you to take the time out of your day, your evening, your morning to spend with us, thank you for doing that and giving us your time. I also wanted to say thank you. I see we had some team folks here. I see Thomas, who's here. I know Tyler was here earlier, and he may have left. But I want to say that we couldn't get things done without the folks on the team who support us and are behind the scenes working every single day to help the outreach, to help the development efforts and so forth. There's no team without these guys. So they're a very important piece of what we do, even though you guys may not see them. And what else? That's it. I'll just leave it there, other than thank you for having us. And we look forward to doing this. And MMT, if you want to talk, reach out. It sounds like you've got something going on you want to chat about. So let's have that conversation. And okay, that's the last thing I wanted to say. How do you get involved? That's one of the things I always like to wrap with. If you're interested in learning more about us, or you have a project, a platform, a solution that you'd like to bring to the ecosystem, or you know of one that you'd like to refer, reach out to us. If you go to biometricfinancial.org, on the top of every page at the right, there's a referral link, and you can refer yourself in, or you can refer someone else, another project, a person, a solution that you think should come in. If they come into the ecosystem, you get paid out in some BIOFI as a reward. So please get involved if that's something you're interested in. That's how we're going to bring the utility and the value to the market. So thanks again. Brian, you're up.
Thank you, Chris.
One thing I would like to say for the audience here, you guys are very fortunate to have Robert. We train together, and I tell you what, this guy studies. He a lot of time keeping track of what's going on globally. There's bring up in our conversations, his mind goes deep on a lot of topics. And for you guys in the system, he brings great value to BIOFI, and amazing, greater value to Kryptonaires because of all the work that he does on your behalf. It's amazing the amount of effort that he puts in to make sure everything runs smoothly and to dig deep. So we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
And this community and everything that you're doing, Robert. And again, get your bags packed. We're going to keep you busy in the continent of Africa. For all of those of you that are here supporting us, this is probably one of those exciting moments in the history of BIOFI. At this particular time, when we're about ready to launch an incredible innovation that will change many people's lives. And what happens next, what goes on in these next months and years, is probably going to blow all of our minds. Just the extent to which this technology will help people and change the outcome for so many people across that continent. So we're very excited about that. I would echo Chris's comments for the team, because I know many people watch these after the fact, that you guys do a fantastic job. The entire team, we just love everything they do. These guys put in incredible hours. They create this just amazing quality. And it's all about quality, innovation, and building these incredible products. They help people, they change lives, and we appreciate all that you guys do. And thank you, Robert, for this opportunity. Look forward to come back whenever you need us and often.
I appreciate that, Brian. My passport is ready, so just let me know where to pack my bags and where you're sending me. And you saw how I am in China and in Hong Kong. I'll do anything to kind of move it forward. I'll ask the questions that need to be asked, and it's just a real honor and a privilege to kind of be on this journey and working behind the scenes with you guys. And we had a lot of fun on that trip to China. I can't imagine what South Africa or different places in Africa are going to be like, but just tell me when, and I'll get on that plane to do whatever we need to do to move this thing forward. So thank you for your time, Chris. Thank you for your time. The audience, thank you for your time. And anybody that's watching this on replay, if you made it to the end and if you stayed for the full thing, please let us know down in the comments and let us know, are you holding BIOFI? Do you plan to hold BIOFI? And what your plans are for the future with the ecosystem. And like Brian said, if you guys have some ideas, even if they're a little bit wild, you never know what we can kind of put into play here. So send a message to me or send a message to Brian or Chris directly. They will always listen, and they will never say anything weird to you. Trust me, I've been there. I've asked these weird questions, and Brian's always been very kind, and he always spends time with me to try to see what we can do to move it forward. So thank you, gentlemen. You guys have a fantastic rest of your weekend, and I'll see you tomorrow, Brian, for another meeting to see what else we can add to this ecosystem while we're building it. So thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Double Dam. Thank you, JP, Gideon, Marcus, Hitch, Ariana. Thank you all for staying here. All right, guys. You guys have a great weekend. See you next time. Bye.